I'm back. It's Tuesday now, still sitting in front of this lovely blue background. And I'm sure I'll be interrupted by one of my children, but that's okay. We're going to keep reading. The Wild Robot Escapes. And we're on chapter 34, which is The Delighted Geese. And yesterday I asked you guys for some of your predictions about what's going to happen coming up while the geese are migrating. So let's see if any of your predictions are true. A flock of geese had just landed at Hilltop Farm. It was the first flock of the autumn migration. The geese floated on the pond, cleaning their feathers and nibbling on weeds. But they all stopped what they were doing when Roz waved and said hello. The robot never forgot a face, and she was certain she didn't know any of these geese. But they seemed to know her. Before she even introduced herself, the lead goose squawked, "Is your name Roz?" The robot stared at the goose. "Yes, it is. And you can speak the animal language?" The answer was obvious, but Roz politely said, "Yes, I can speak the animal language. Do you by any chance have a goose for a son?" "Yes, I do," said Roz. "His name is Brightbill." At that, a voice blurted out, "The stories are true!" And suddenly the flock was smiling and fluttering over to the robot. When all the commotion settled down, the leader explained, "All along our migration, we've heard rumors of a robot who can speak with animals, who has a goose for a son, and who is trapped on a farm. That sounded ridiculous to us, but here you are." The flock was absolutely delighted to meet our robot. They lounged around the pond for a couple of days, chatting with Roz whenever she came by, and then they continued flying south to their wintering grounds. Another flock of geese arrived, and the same thing happened all over again. Roz welcomed them, they were delighted to meet the legendary robot, and then the flock continued south. Then it happened again, and again. Before long, the coming and going of delighted geese was just another part of the robot's autumn routine. Struggling behind the others as usual was Wingtip's flock. When Roz saw them splash onto the pond, she felt something like hope that they might have news of her son. Sadly, the geese had no news to report, and as the flock took off and left Roz behind, she began to question whether she'd ever see Brightbill again. Chapter 35, The Memories. Roz still dreamed of escaping, of going home, of reuniting with her son, but her dreams were starting to feel impossible. She was losing hope. Was it time for the robot to accept her new life and forget her old one? Forget. Roz was troubled by that word. You see, her computer brain remembered every detail of her life on the island, and it hurt to think she might never make it back there. However, the robot could always forget. She could erase her old memories. It would be like they never happened. The heaviness she now felt would vanish, but without her memories, who would she be? No, Roz wanted to remember her old life, which was good, because someone from her old life was about to appear. Chapter 36, The Unusual Flock. First of all, let's raise our hands if we want to hear Bennett chomping on Doritos. No one? Me either. Bennett, take your Doritos and go over there. The unusual flock! And we see this picture. Another flock of geese was approaching the farm, but this flock was unusual. It wasn't flying south like the others. It was flying north in a perfect V formation, and it was led by a young, graceful goose. The flock flew once around the farm buildings and then delicately touched down in the barnyard. The leader whispered some words to the others, then he fluttered in through the barn door. The cows looked up from their stalls as the goose perched himself on a railing near the middle of the barn. Then the goose cleared his throat, shook his tail feathers, and announced to the herd, "I am looking for a robot named Roz. My name is Brightbill. I am her son." Chapter 37, The Reunion. Something was wrong with the cows. Their excited moos echoed out from the barn and across the farm. Roz sent the milk truck away for its evening deliveries and hurried off to see what the ruckus was about. When she stepped into the barn, she found the entire herd crowded together. As the robot started pushing her way through, the cows turned to her and smiled. And then Roz saw him, her beloved son, Brightbill. As you know, reader, robots don't feel emotions, not the way animals do. But in that moment, in that barn, nobody had any doubt how Roz felt. She rushed forward and scooped her son into her arms. "Bright Bill!" she cried. "Is that really you?" Look, there they are. Yay! "It's really me!" Bright Bill nuzzled his mother's face. "But how did you find me?" said Roz. "Ma, you're famous! You were all anyone could talk about at the wintering grounds. It started with the flocks of geese that stopped here on their migrations. They shared your story with everyone they met. Your story spread from flock to flock, from north to south, from east to west. Eventually your story made its way to me. I took off as soon as I heard where you were. I didn't even tell the others." "But we caught up to him!" Loudwing, the old goose, fluttered over the herd and gently landed on a cow's back. "Bright Bill wasn't the only one who wanted to see you, Roz." The rest of the flock appeared, and the robot found herself surrounded by old friends and family. Squawking and mooing and laughing and cheering filled the barn. But then came a loud, clear voice that only the robot understood. "Roz! What are you doing?" The animals hushed. Roz slowly turned around, and there were Jaya and Jad standing in the doorway. The children had seen everything. Chapter 38. The Truth. Children can be very sneaky, and when Jaya and Jad heard the ruckus coming from the barn, they silently sneaked over to investigate. Now they were staring at a very strange scene indeed. Roz was standing in the middle of the barn, surrounded by the entire herd of cows. For some reason, a flock of geese was there as well, and one of the geese was being cradled in the robot's arms. But what most confused the children were the wild animal noises Roz had just been making. The thing is, children aren't just sneaky, they're also smart, and it didn't take long for Jaya and Jad to make sense of that strange scene. "Those stories Roz told us about the robot on her island," Jad said to his sister. "They were about her." "The goose in Roz's arms," said Jaya to her brother. "That must be her son." All of Roz's stories came flooding back to the children. The robot, the island, the wild animals, the adventures. Those stories seem so fanciful. Could they really be true? "You are correct, children. Those robot stories are about me," admitted Roz with a hint of sadness in her voice. "There were so many times that I wanted to tell you the truth about my past, but I was afraid the truth would frighten you." The robot motioned to the goose in her arms. "This is my son. His name is Bright Bill." Reader, there's another important quality that children possess. In addition to being sneaky and smart, they're also compassionate. Children care about others and about the world, and as Jaya and Jad gazed at Roz and Bright Bill, their little hearts were full of compassion. "Please do not tell your father about me," said Roz. "To him, I am just a machine. If he learns the truth, he will send me back to the robot factory where I will be destroyed. But you must do what you feel is right. My life is in your hands now." The children looked at each other and smiled. "Don't worry, Roz. Your secret is safe with us," said Jad. Chapter 39. The Allies. Jaya and Jad would do anything to have their own mother back, so they understood how happy Bright Bill and Roz must have felt in that moment. But they also understood that this happy moment couldn't last forever. Bright Bill couldn't live on the farm, and Roz couldn't be her true self around their father. Life seemed so unfair. The children knew what needed to happen. "Roz, you need to go home," said Jaya. "You need to be with your family and your friends on your island," said Jad. "I wish I could go home, but your father would never allow it," said Roz. "Just run away," said the girl. "I ran away once. It was easy. But then I started feeling hungry, so I came home and made myself a sandwich." "Running away might be easy for you, but not for me," said Roz. "Your father can track my movements. If he sees me trying to escape, he will think I am defective, and he will send me away to be destroyed." An uncomfortable question popped into Jaya's mind. "Roz, don't take this the wrong way," she began. "But is it possible that you are defective?" "Don't say that, Jaya," cried her brother. "No, it is okay," said the robot. "I have asked myself that same question. I do not feel defective. I feel different. Is being different the same as being defective? I don't think so, said Jaya. Or else we're all a little defective. You saved my life, and now I'm going to save yours, said Jad, with a look of determination in his eyes. I know you can only access farming information, Roz, so let us handle the research. There has to be a way for you to safely escape, but we'll need time to figure out a plan. The robot exchanged a few animal words with her son, and then she said to the children, Brightbill must soon lead his flock back to their wintering grounds. However, he can return here in the spring. The boy slowly nodded. We should have you ready by then. The girl looked concerned. Roz, even if you safely escape from the farm, how will you get all the way home to your island? Leave that to Brightbill and me, said the robot. Together we will find our way home. I have faith in the two of us, and I have faith in the two of you. So this chapter was called The Allies, and when you have an ally, that's someone that's really going to help you work together to accomplish a goal. And so now Roz has two allies. She has Jad and Jaya to help her get back to her home, back to the forest. All right. The last chapter we're going to read today is chapter 40. That's called The Instincts. And there's the picture. The next few days were a blur. Roz rushed through her daily tasks so she could have more time with the flock. The geese talked about Chit-Chat the squirrel and the beaver family and the other animals on the island. Roz talked about the robot factory and the Sharifs and life on the farm. But the geese were always aware of their instincts, calling them back to the warm wintering grounds.